Good evening and welcome to Poland Daily. I'm Nicholas Richardson and this is the news. Ukraine said on Monday that its troops have retaken a fourth village from Russian forces in a cluster of settlements in the southeast, where its forces have finally made gains in their long-awaited counter-offensive. The Ukrainian authorities have maintained a gagging order on news from the front. Drone footage published on the Telegram social messaging app purportedly showed Ukrainian soldiers in Storozheva, which Ukraine's deputy defence minister said had come under Ukraine's control on Monday. Reuters was able to confirm the location of Storozheva from buildings, trees and road layout which matched satellite imagery of the area. Reuters was not able to independently confirm the date the video was filmed. The task of ending Moscow's occupation of southern and eastern Ukraine is daunting given Russia's numerical superiority in men, ammunition and air power, and the many months it has had to build deep defensive fortifications. A day earlier, Kiev said its forces heading south had liberated three other nearby villages, Lahodatne, Neskuchne and Mararivka, all along the Mokry-Yali River, which flows northward out of Russian-held territory. A push is already Ukraine's most rapid advance for several months, although still short of a major breakthrough, with Russia believed to have a strong line of fortifications further south. At the furthest claimed by Kiev, it adds up to 5 kilometres in total, still some 90 kilometres from the Azov Sea coast and the prize of cutting Russia's land bridge to Crimea, the peninsula Moscow seized from Ukraine in 2014. A Ukrainian repair base near Donetsk in the country's southeast is preparing tanks for battle on the eastern front. Tank Platoon Commander Dmitro from the 59th Separate Motorized Infantry Brigade said on Monday that the tanks were being repaired and fitted with dynamic protection plates and camouflage materials. This is a T-72 we received from Poland. It arrived here in this very condition. I admit it has been in lots of battles, but we'll cover it with dynamic protection plates. We'll also cover off the tank turret, as it is not protected at the moment. This is how it will look once we're done. This is a present we received from Russia, by the way, a T-72B3, which we captured in the Kherson region. It shoots towards its owners. Ukraine, in the early stages of a long-anticipated counter-offensive, reported on Monday its troops had recaptured a fourth village in the southeast. Moscow has yet to officially acknowledge any Ukrainian advances. There's almost no major repair left to do. We've managed to get these vehicles going. We are getting ready for battle together with the vehicles. The orcs will feel pain. Our Ukraine will get all its territories back. We're still welding. Only a few more steps and it'll be ready for battle. Let the orcs wait for it. Ukraine is banking on the tens of billions of dollars worth of weaponry training and intelligence it has received from the West, combined with its own battlefield resolve, tactical nous, and the motivation of driving an invader from its own land to give it the edge. Ukrainian farmers have abandoned the blockade by Polish-Ukrainian border farmers' organisations, which had been planned to block the passage of Polish lorries through 4 international border crossings. This was in response to protests by Polish farmers against the transit of Ukrainian agricultural product through Polish territory. Polish farmers were also preparing to block movements, but after talks with government representatives, they abandoned their blockade. Meanwhile, the Ukrainian government is complaining about subsidies that Poland has granted to its farmers in response to a surge in Ukrainian grain export. According to Ukraine's Deputy Economy Minister, Taras Kachka, such measures are not in line with World Trade Organization rules. The Polish government earlier this year approved 10 billion zloty in aid for the Polish agriculture to help its farmers compete with the glut of Ukrainian grain that has built up in Poland and other Eastern European countries. These subsidies go far beyond what is allowed under WTO rules. They may be a small development, but they can be a source of trade disruption around the globe, Kachka told an International Grains Council conference in London. Poland has been one of Kiev's strongest supporters following Russia's February 2022 invasion, but the grain issue has caused tensions for the Polish government, which relies on support from rural voters. Poland, Bulgaria, Hungary, Romania and Slovakia became alternative transit routes for Ukrainian grain to compensate for the slowdown in exports through the country's Black Sea ports following the invasion. Bottlenecks then trapped millions of tons of grain in these countries, driving down prices for local farmers and prompting their respective governments unilaterally to impose import bans on Ukrainian food. The European Union reached a deal on the 2nd of May, allowing the 5 countries to ban domestic sales of Ukrainian wheat, maize, rapeseed and sunflower seeds, while allowing transit for export elsewhere, including to other European Union countries. The European Commission, which oversees EU trade policy, says the bans will be phased out by mid-September, by which time it expects to see improvements in the flow of grain out of Ukraine and through transit countries. We do not see any real negative impact on the domestic markets of these countries, and we are working intensively with the EU to ensure the smooth operation of all trade routes, said Kachka. He He added that the trade disruptions caused by the war led to assumptions, speculations, and unfair trade practices, when in reality, trade is the key factor that can stabilise markets. The EU initially liberalised all imports from Ukraine for 12 months from June 2022 in a bid to support Kiev's efforts to fend off Russia's invasion. Last month, it agreed to extend the tariff suspension for another year. MEP Eva Kaili, who is facing corruption charges, has been granted permission to attend the next parliamentary session in Strasbourg. Kaili is suspected of taking millions of pounds in bribes. She was removed from her position as Vice President of the European Parliament after the allegations were made. Alexander Voyak reports on the details. Politico, citing information from Kaili's lawyers, reported that a court had allowed the MEP to leave Belgium. EU lawmaker Eva Kaili is set to take her first journey outside of Brussels since her arrest in the Qatargate cash for influence scandal. The Greek MEP had previously been in prison and was placed under house arrest in mid-April. She was released at the end of May. However, she has not yet been allowed to leave Belgium. A former MEP, Anthony Panzeri, was also charged in connection with the corruption scandal in the European Parliament. In January, however, the president of the Fighting Impunity Foundation agreed to testify. In return, Belgian prosecutors withdrew a request to deport his daughter and wife from Italy. The women remain under house arrest. A week ago, Eva Kaili gave an interview to the Spanish daily El Mundo. The former vice president of the European Parliament believes she is the victim of a conspiracy and that the accusations against her are fabricated. Police found €150,000 in Kaili's home. I have never been offered money by any country and I have never been bribed. In addition to losing her position as Vice President of the European Parliament, Eva Kaili has also been removed from the structures of the European Social Democrats. She is currently unaffiliated with any party. We can all feel that this is an attempt to sweep the issue under the carpet, that politicians are always crawling on all fours. It is disastrous for the image of the European Parliament. Kaili is not the only suspect who may return to work in the European Parliament. Mark Tarabella, who, according to Panzeri's testimony, allegedly took a €140,000 bribe, has also had his electronic surveillance lifted. Kaili is under investigation not only in Belgium but also in Greece. The MEP faces up to 15 years in prison for corruption and involvement in an organised crime group. The extent of the influence that the Russian criminal machine gained in Poland between 2007 and 2015 as a result of the PO-PSL government is enormous. A special report by Gazeta Polska on the subject shows that there is practically no area of public life that has not been infected by the concept of cooperation with Putin's Russia as it is. Former Prime Minister Donald Tusk spoke about resetting relations with Russia in his exposé on assuming office in November 2007. We want dialogue with Russia as it is. The lack of dialogue serves neither Poland nor Russia. It spoils the interests and reputation of both countries on the international arena. That is why I am convinced that the time for a good change on this issue is now. One of the first decisions taken by the PO-PSL government was to remove the veto from the European Union's trade agreement with Russia. Poland had maintained its opposition to this for over a year in response to trade sanctions imposed by Russia. It was a return to communist times without communism, i.e. a return to a situation in which Moscow has the right to decide on key issues for Poland. Polish energy, Polish defence, Polish diplomacy and Polish policy, including domestic policy, was becoming dependent on Moscow's interests. During Donald Tusk's government, the creation of the missile shield was blocked. The US installation was supposed to protect NATO countries, including Poland, from missile strikes. We know that the Russian side was against the construction of the anti-missile shield because it eliminated the possible threat of missile weapons from Russia. Then, after building the shield, Russia would have had no way to blackmail Poland and Western Europe. Today, TVP Info and TVP1 will begin broadcasting the Reset documentary series. As announced by its creators, journalist Michał Raszon and historian Professor Sławomir Cęckiewicz, new facts about Polish-Russian relations between 2007 and 2015 will be revealed. The authors have found documents showing that the Czech Prime Minister, while in the United States, discussed Polish agreements on the missile shield. And around the same time, Prime Minister Tusk in Washington undermined the efforts of the Czechs, torpedoing the entire joint project. We all have in our minds such catchy images or phrases of the Komiersant newspaper title about Donald Tusk saying that he is our man in Warsaw. Or remember the pictures of the walk in the Kremlin and on Red Square. Together with Professor Cęckiewicz, we decided to study the available sources and to analyze them without emotion. In 2010, Deputy Prime Minister Waldemar Pawlak and Vladimir Putin's Deputy Head of Government Igor Sechin signed an agreement on increasing Russian gas supplies to Poland and supplying it at the highest prices in Europe. The agreement regulated gas transit through Poland until 2019, with the possibility of extending it to 2045. However, in 2009, Donald Tusk had halted the Baltic Pipe project, which guaranteed the diversification of fuel supplies. On the 19th of December 2013, when the Ukrainians were protesting on the Maidan against their country being tied to Russia, Radosław Sikorski met the Russian foreign minister in Warsaw. The two ministers signed a declaration saying that they would deepen mutually beneficial cooperation. And this is just one of the many examples of the reset with Russia under the PO-PSL government. The full report is available in Gazeta Polska, and the latest findings in this case will be presented in a new documentary series on TVP, the first episode of which airs tonight at 21:30. That's the news. Thank you for watching. Stay with us for the weather, Poland Daily Business and more programmes. But from me, it's have a good night and a better tomorrow.